Yo, what's good people? Today we're going to be doing the long awaited lever tier list. I have a lot of levers in front of me. There are going to be some levers featured in the tier list that I do not have currently, but I have owned in the past. So I'm only going to be including levers that I've actually owned and tested. There's no point me speculating on levers. For example, the Alpha N, I know a lot of people want me to review that lever, but I have not used and tested the lever before. So as you can see here, this is just my favorite lever by far. Like, it's insanity how good this lever is. Insane. So this is the ASI Black Golden Fanta, as you can see. So as I said before, I'm not really going to be doing play tests with these levers. I'm just going to sit and talk. I'm just going to talk about my preferences, what I look for in levers, what I don't like in levers, and why I'm placing levers in certain positions. Now, I haven't used every single lever on the market for sure, and even some levers that are not currently on the desk I have actually used. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Like will help with the algorithm, commenting will also help with the algorithm, and subscribing will let me know that you enjoy the content. Let's get into it. Before we get into the video, all the music you hear in this video today is produced by me, so definitely go and check out my music on all streaming platforms: Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, etc. Let's get into the video. Okay, so on my desk below, I have 13 levers, which is insane. So I'm going to switch to the big screen and I'm going to run through what I have on the desk. Okay, let's start with this lever here. So this is in my cross-up that I built. This is the knee lever Neo. Now we have the Fujin V2, Fujin Sandrux aluminium Fujin actually. So this is like a blend between Sandrux part and Fujin V3. So essentially a Fujin V3 on steroids. Now we have the Kaze V3, we have the knee version 1, we have the Sandrux V7, we have the Sandrux V6, we have the Korjam V4, Master Lever, Super Horang Fanta, and then we've got 3 golden Fanta. So this is a white golden Fanta, and then these are 2 black golden Fanta from ASI. Now this lever is so good, I have 2, and I'm actually buying another one because they're bringing out an Ulsan lever which looks ridiculous. So yes, I will be buying a 3rd black golden Fanta from ASI. It's top tier. So we're going to get into placements of each of these levers and why I'm placing them there. So let's get into it. Okay, so here's my tier list. Now, annoyingly, I couldn't do a live tier list because there was a massive ad that covered the whole screen, so I couldn't really record the live placements of the levers. However, this is my tier list. Now let's start from the top and go down to the bottom. Now, fear of missing out doesn't necessarily mean it's a terrible lever. It just means I think it's extremely overhyped. This is the only lever that I would put in fear of missing out. Maybe Fujin V3, but I put the Fujin V3 in C tier. We're gonna start with S+. This is top 1 for me, which is the black golden Fanta from Arcade Stick Indonesia. This lever is ridiculous. The construction. Now the thing is you need to actually build it to be sick. Any ecosystem that has loads of parts, you can actually build a lever to perform poorly. So it really just depends on your preferences and how you build your lever. Now my preference for levers in terms of the spacing of the switches compared to the actuator size, I don't like a 1-to-1 ratio. I usually like my actuator to be 0.5 less than the spacing. So for example, the black Fanta has a 16.5mm switch spacing. So that means I use a 60mm bearing, right? That's 0.5 millimeter smaller than the spacing. So that's usually what I tend to stick to. Now there are instances where I use a more of a 1-to-1 ratio. So I know Korjam V4, the actuator size is 0.2mm away from the spacing. So that's more in line with a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's not, so it definitely does depend on the lever, but I genuinely prefer my levers not to be extremely sensitive. So again, we're going to start with the black Fanta. The black Fanta is ridiculous. Now I built it to my preferences, of course. I interchanged the circular full color with the low square core. I actually prefer the low square core guide, but yeah, we've got the black Fanta at number 1 spot, which is just sick. Okay, now let's talk about S tier. Now, to be honest, I only put 1 lever in S tier, which is the Korjam V4. It's probably the best built lever on this list, but performance wise, it's really good, but it's not as good as how I built my black Fanta to be. Now, my black Fanta is just the perfect lever for me. Now, again, this is just my opinion. So you might think, okay, the black Fanta is not that good. You might think the Fujin V3 is top tier. But for me personally, I think the way I constructed this black Fanta is incredible. Every character feels really responsive and smooth. That is a problem that I had on levers where specific characters like Raven, for example, would feel very sluggish on levers. So obviously Raven's my main character, right? So it's important that my main character feels as responsive as possible. So yeah, the black Fanta feels really good for Raven. So going back to the Korjam V4, the Korjam V4 is built like a tank. I think the only issue I had with the Korjam V4 is the tension that came inside it was way too stiff. It came with a Crown 25 ST and a Crown 30 ST. For me, I like soft medium tension. So to put it into perspective, I like the IST 32 Violet tension, which is now discontinued, which is very sad because that was kind of the perfect tension for me, depending on what lever it's in, of course, because different levers and different bodies will compress tensions differently. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Not all tension is going to feel the same in every lever and every body in every construction, right? So yeah, but I did like the IST 32 Violet tension. I also like the ASI 45A X and regular tension, so soft medium tension. Now when we're talking about Crown, in most Crown levers, like for example the Sandrix V6 and the Crown 309 NJ, I like the Violet 30 ST, which is kind of like soft medium. I don't like the white tension. I don't like the clear tension, which is 25. It's a bit too light for me, so I like the Violet. Now the Violet tension in the Core Jam V4 was way too stiff for me. The same with the clear one, actually, weirdly enough, because the clear one in other levers, it feels like nothing. It's way too light for me. So that's kind of just a testament to how much compression this lever actually has. This is the most compressed lever I have currently, probably followed by the black Fanta, because actually the black parts compress, the black collars compress, the black body compresses, but also I have an oversized core or bobbin inside, so that adds extra bit of compression to tensions inside it. So again, yeah, the Core Jam V4 is sick. I just think it was a little bit stiff for my liking, so actually now I have a 20 ST tension, which is perfect. Inputs are consistent, don't get me wrong, they are consistent, that's why it's an S tier, but personally for me the black Fanta just edges it ever so slightly. But again, the Core Jam V4 is still a really good lever. It's second best, and I've owned many levers in the past. A tier. So it's a little bit confusing because I have different ASI levers. So this is actually the white golden Fanta. Now the reason why I put the white golden Fanta lower than the black one is because I like the compressed feeling. I feel like it cleans up inputs, it cleans up, it kind of improves the grommet responsiveness as well. I don't know why, but I feel like when ASI grommets are compressed, they become more responsive. So that's why I put the white golden Fanta in A tier, because I feel like it's just not as responsive as the black Fanta is. Sandrix V6. Sandrix V6 is built like a tank. It's pretty much a top tier Crown style lever. Not as good as the Core Jam V4 in my opinion. I just think I did get a few misinputs when doing perfect electrics, for example. And when I'm doing dash electric, sometimes it can be a bit funny. So I think consistency for me is where it kind of loses points compared to a top tier Crown style lever like the Core Jam V4. Core Jam V4 for me felt a little bit more consistent than the Sandrix V6. However, the Sandrix V6 is still a solid pick. It's still A tier. It's still quite solid. Same goes for the Sandrix V7. Now, I've seen mixed opinions on the Sandrix V7. Personally, for me, I think it's one of the easier levers to get into regarding Fanta style levers. I think it's one of the easiest levers to get into, especially if you're rocking a squircle guide or a square guide. I think it just feels easier to pick up and play. So that's what I'm going to say with the Sandrix V7. I think it's a solid lever. I think it's easy for beginners to pick up and play. It doesn't compress majorly. I think the Sandrix V6 actually compresses tension more than the V7. But I think the Sandrix V6 and V7 are kind of equal when it comes to how good they are. It just depends on if you want a Crown style lever or if you want a Fanta style lever. I think they're both pretty good and pretty solid picks. Let's look at the knee lever Neo. Knee lever Neo is a Crown style lever. So Knee's first branded lever was the Knee B1, which I did put in B tier, but we're going to get to that in a little while. So his first lever was actually built upon the Alpha 49S. So it's literally just an Alpha 49S, but with Knee's branding on it. There's nothing special. There's nothing different about the lever. It's just a 49S branded with Knee's name. Right? I think this lever had Knee's input a little bit more in terms of construction, because I don't know anything lever that has the same kind of build and construction and parts. But I think this is really solid if you're looking to get into Korean levers. I think this is a really solid start, or a solid kind of entry point. Now, I would have recommended the Crown 309 MJ. That's kind of the standard. If someone's looking to get into Korean levers, usually people would just say, okay, just get a Crown 309 MJ, right? Because it's easy to pick up and play. Diagonals are quite big and easy to find. However, I feel like the knee lever Neo is a Crown 309 MJ on steroids. I think it's just better built. The one thing I will say that I don't like, and it doesn't affect performance, but it affects compatibility in cases. This lever is very deep, so just check the clearance, because it can affect clearance a lot. in a lot of cases as well, because it is a big lever. But performance wise, it's very, very consistent. I really enjoy QCF motions on this. I really enjoy electrics. I just think it's easy to pick up and play. Diagonals feel easy to find as well. So yeah, I think if you want a solid pick that's not too difficult to pick up and play, I would suggest the Knee Lever Neo. The difference between the Knee Lever Neo and the Sandrix V6, because they're both crown style levers, is the Sandrix V6, I think, requires a little bit more practice because the diagonals didn't feel as easy to find as the Knee Lever Neo. So compression wise and tension wise, they feel quite similar. I believe the orange knee tension inside the Neo is rated at 30 to 32 ST, so a tad bit more stiff than what comes in the V6, which is the 30 ST, right? The violet one. But again, these levers are in A tier, so whichever lever you pick out of A tier, if you are going to buy one and try it, they're going to be solid, right? Okay, the next lever I have in A tier and the last lever I have in A tier is the Super Harangue Fanta. Now, I nearly put this in fear of missing out, but the reason why I didn't put this in fear of missing out is because yes, it's a very rare lever and very difficult to find, but it's not overrated. I don't see people kind of raving about this lever, whereas I do see a lot of people saying Master Lever's the best lever ever, or Master Lever's like really sick, or Master Lever's the golden lever killer. Like, it's just not, it's, for me personally anyway, it's just not true. I'm sure you can build the Master Lever to be as fantastic as you want with the correct parts, but my experience with the Master Lever wasn't very good, and I felt it was very sluggish and very unresponsive. So for me, that's why it's in fear of missing out. But we're going to get onto the Master Lever. But the reason why I didn't put this one in fear of missing out, the Super Harangue Fanta, is because it's actually good. I don't see people talking about it, and that's probably because it's just hard to get, right? So this lever is a Myeongshin Fanta on steroids, because it is actually built off of Myeongshin Fanta. It's just modified. So the tension inside it is very specific, 37A rated. Now this lever is quite stiff. I would probably put the stiffness on par with like a Fujin V3, a stock Fujin V3, which is notoriously stiff. So it is stiff, but I did enjoy using it because I felt like my inputs were very sharp and consistent and clean. It's just the diagonals are very hard to find on this lever, so it's not an easy lever to pick up and play at all. It definitely requires a seasoned Korean lever user to actually kind of get the most out of it. I wouldn't recommend this to beginners at all. Once you get used to it, it is a very good lever. It's consistent. It's fun to use, right? So that's the Super Harangue Fanta. Okay, B tier. Now I have the Golden Lever Variable Edition. To me, this just feels like a less responsive white Golden Fanta. I always preferred the Golden Fantas from ASI. The Black Fanta's top one for me personally, and there's no discussion. Okay, the Core Gen V4 comes close, but it's just, yeah, this just clears my whole list. Now, the Golden Lever Variable Edition, I never really got on with Golden Levers. Now, I'm sure I could build it to feel the same as my Black Golden Fanta, but I just feel like the white bodies don't compress tensions enough. And I feel like the more compression that ASI grommets are under, the better they perform, within reason, right? But I just feel like this one is a little bit less responsive than the Golden Fanta versions of ASI levers. That's just how I feel. There's not really much to say. I mean, the variable aspect is good, but it's just fiddly, and the kind of the nuts can fall out, and it's just cumbersome. So I think it's an annoying lever to use, to be honest. Would much rather get a white Golden Fanta and obviously a black Golden Fanta. Those are better than the Golden Lever in my opinion. Okay, let's move on to the Knee V1. As I said before, the Knee V1 is literally just a Alpha 49S branded with Knee's name, and I think it's solid. I think there's a lot of QC issues around this lever, so I think it's a solid choice, but it's not really my first choice. It's decent. If you want to try it, you can. I think the diagonals aren't too strict. But the reason I'm putting it in B tier is because it has so many QC issues and so much variance. I can't really put a lever that has this much variance in any higher tier, to be honest. It's just the variance that lets it down. I think if it was super consistent and the knee hypertension inside it was super consistent, it will be probably an A tier lever, but yeah, the consistency for me just lets it down a little bit. Let's move on to the 309 MJ. Now this is kind of like your bog standard staple crown style lever. It's decent. It's a good starter lever, I would say. Transitioning from Japanese lever, if you use like a JLF for example, I think you would have an easy time with this because the diagonals are easy to find. It's not super stiff. It's actually quite light, very light in fact, and it fits in most cases, right? So it's just a good solid pick. I don't think it does anything particularly fantastic. I think it does everything decently well. So I would say it's pretty much middle of the pack average. not really much to say on the Crown 319 MJ. I mean, it was my first Korean lever, I believe. Yes, it was my first Korean lever, and to be honest, I enjoyed it. It's just because I didn't use anything else. That's just what I knew at the time, and I think it is good, but there's way more better options out there now, currently anyway. Sanjuk's Fujin V3. Now, this is the aluminium Sanjuk's Fujin V3. This is very annoying to use. It takes too much work for this lever to be good. Like, I put together a build in my head. I built it, and it just felt awful to use. And then I tinkered around, and I got it to kind of feel decently okay-ish. But again, I just don't like Fujins. I just don't like Fujin levers. It's just a personal preference thing. I just don't like Fujin levers. I don't like the huge throw. I don't like the huge throw, and I don't like how stiff they are. Now, yes, I can build it to be less stiff, and I could have just used the low collet, right? But it just doesn't feel good to me to use. To be honest, it feels better than the Fujin V3 and the Fujin V2. But again, I don't see the hype around Fujin levers. I really don't. It feels fine. You can build it to be good, but I just think it takes too much work for it to be good. So that's why I placed it in B tier. It's a cumbersome lever to use and to build, right? But it looks pretty. It's a pretty lever, but performance wise, yeah, I would put it in B tier. It's not the best. Okay, C tier. Now these are your classic Korean levers. Taeyong, you've got the Myeongshin Fancy, you've got the Fujin. The reason why I placed the Taeyong in C tier is because I think the lever just feels dated. Now, the same can be said for all of these levers in C tier. The Fujin V3 feels dated. The Myeongshin Fanta feels dated, but yeah, the Taeyong Fanta feels dated as well. The QC is not great. The diagonals feel very hard to pinpoint, and I think it's stiff. Now, stiffness is personal preference, and obviously this is my personal preference, but I don't like using this lever. It feels like I'm fighting inputs. So that's what I'm going to say on the Taeyong. It feels just dated and really annoying to use. Fujin V3, I hate the throw. The one thing that I think it is good for is Korean backdash. This is a very good lever for Korean backdash, but everything else was super unresponsive. The huge throw is really annoying to use. The actuator is small in comparison to the switch spacing, in my opinion. It just doesn't feel good to use. It feels like I'm fighting inputs. It literally feels like I'm fighting inputs. And the QC, again, is a bit iffy. It is better than like your Myeongshin Fanta, because this has a lot of QC problems. It still just doesn't feel good to use to me. Let's move on to Myeongshin Fanta. Okay, there's a few editions of the Myeongshin Fanta. Now, the one I used was the 2019 version of the Myeongshin Fanta. The QC, again, is iffy. The switches used, the Gersung A2s, are terrible. The thing is, I like how light they are, but I don't like how they feel. They feel very mushy. The lever just feels very mushy to me. It doesn't feel good to use. The QC is not very good. Even when it comes down to cosmetics and the QC around that, you always have some sort of chip on the batok. You have warping on the body. It's just not a very good lever. It's very cheap. Wave dashing feels decently okay on this lever, the Myeongshin Fanta, but everything else just feels subpar to me. Honestly, the diagonals feel a little bit annoying to find as well. So again, this is kind of the theme of these levers in C tier, is that with enough practice, yes, you can make these levers work, but why would you do that when you can just buy a lever that just works? I guess the only argument for that is these levers are cheap, right? These are kind of cheaper compared to your more premium choices like your Sanjuk's stuff or your golden levers or your golden Fantas, right? It's cheap, I guess, but I would just pay the extra money and get a lever that actually works, because these just don't feel good to use, in my opinion. Remember, it's my opinion. D tier, Kaze V3, awful. It's so bad. It's almost unusable. It's really bad. Like, honestly, just a collector's item. At this point, it's really bad. It's really bad. Like, it's so unresponsive. It's crazy. I could barely even wave dash with this thing. It's so bad. But that's what I'm going to say on the Kaze V3. I just think it feels so old. I'm sorry to the Kaze V3 enjoyers, but this lever is just trash tier. Now, Fuji V2, same thing, trash tier. It felt mushy to play on. Fuji V2 is actually trash tier. This also is a collector's piece, just to say you have a Fuji V2. I think the Fujin V2 is a way worse version than the V3. This had a lot of QC problems. This had a lot of shaft grinding issues as well. The diagonals feel annoying. It's stiff. Personal preference, of course, it's stiff. The throw is huge and the switches felt mushy when I used the Fujin V2. So I just think it's not a great lever, to be honest. And to get it to feel good takes too much work. I think these two are the worst levers I've ever used, to be honest. Now, master lever, fear of missing out tier. Now, I'm not saying this lever is completely trash tier, because it's definitely better than the, I would put it in between like B tier and C tier, but for me it's just so overhyped. I see a lot of people saying this lever is top tier, S tier, ASI killer. To me it just feels like a cheap knockoff. If I'm going to be completely honest, it feels like a cheap knockoff of the golden lever personally. If you can get enough parts to tinker around with this lever, I'm sure it's excellent. It's so difficult to get because you have to go through Taobao or an agent to get it from China to, like for example, for me, I live in the UK. I can't buy parts from Taobao and ship them to me. I have to get an agent. I don't trust agents. It's very difficult for me to even get extra parts to tinker around with. The switches, I don't know what kind of on-run switches this is using, but they don't feel authentic at all. They feel like fake on-run switches. I'm not sure if they're real or not. I don't know, but they just don't feel like on-run switches that I have. I have like 8 sets of on-run switches, A5s, A6s, different on-run switches, right? They just don't feel anything like the on-run switches that I have. So I'm not sure if they're fake or if they're just a bad batch. I'm not sure, but the switches felt really, really bad. But the one thing I can say is that it looks good and they're built decently well. So they're built well. They just didn't perform to what I expected them to perform to. Now, as I said, I think performance wise, I would put them maybe in B tier. The master lever is definitely not as bad as the C tier levers in my opinion, but I wouldn't put them on the tier of B. I would put it kind of like in between B and C, master lever, but I'm just putting it in fear of missing out because I think it's overrated as a lever. I don't think it's as good as people are saying it is. I think maybe if you had the parts to tinker with, it would be good. But again, why would you get a master lever and worry about shipping from China and Taobao? And even Taobao itself is annoying to use and navigate. It can be very annoying to use. It just feels annoying to get parts, and to get the lever itself is annoying itself. So why would you go through all that work to get a subpar lever when you can just get something like a Black Fanta or a Core Jam V4 or a knee lever Neo or something like that? Apart from the aesthetics, because okay, I can agree that they have a lot of colored anodized shafts, they have frosted tops, they have frosted collars and upper body parts, so they have a lot of parts to choose from. You can build your levers in any way you want, really. So I mean, that aspect is cool, but performance wise, I don't think it's touching even the golden lever at this point, and certainly not the golden Fantas. And let's not talk about the Black Fanta, that just clears the whole list. But yeah, I think fear of missing out tier is kind of a fair placement because I do see this lever being gassed a little bit too much for my liking personally, because I have it and I can say that I don't think it's as good as everyone's saying. So here we have my tier list. So S plus ASI Black Fanta. This is clearing the list. Close second though is a Core Jam V4, and then I think everything else. The Sandrox levers are pretty good. I think they're a little bit overpriced for what they do and what they are. Personally, I think this is a solid tier list for me. I think this covers pretty much everything I have used and owned before. Anything that's not on the list, like the Alpha N, I've just not used it, so I can't comment on stuff I haven't used. All of these levers on the list I've owned and used for a prolonged amount of time to kind of get an understanding for the lever itself. And so yeah, I placed them accordingly based on my opinion. So I want you to remember, guys, this is just my opinion. I know there's a lot of people that love the Fuji V3 and there's a lot of people that love the master lever, but for me, they just didn't do it for me. I prefer like the Core Jam V4s as a really, really solid pick. I think the Black Fanta just clears everything. But then again, if you want like a really beginner friendly, easy to pick up and play, no tinkering required, the knee lever Neo is pretty much it. It's just solid, right? Now I will be doing a clear out of my levers, I think. So if you're in the Korean Grommet Sniffers Discord, definitely do look out for my post because I will be listing a few of these levers to get rid of them just because they have no purpose. These are in storage right now, so there's no point me even having these levers, and I'm running out of space. I literally have no space in my space right now. So yeah, I'll be getting rid of a few of these. Definitely the master lever will be going, the Fujis will be going, the Sandrox levers will be going as well. I just don't use any of them. The only ones I use are the Core Jam V4 and the Black Fanta. These two I pretty much use in my rotation, right? So yeah, the rest Super Horring Fanta as well I'll be listing. But that was it for my Korean lever tier list. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.